The latest in a growing line of live service games being dragged to the guillotine is Ubisoft's May of 2024 shooter, XDefiant. And while in some ways it's the most generic product ever created, it's also somehow so boardroom generated that ChatGPT would in some ways provide a better design doc than the actual game had. So what even was this thing? XDefiant is a formerly Tom Clancy branded first-person shooter. We'll get to that. Developed by Ubisoft San Francisco, the developers responsible for Rocksmith and the South Park games, and despite their seeming lack of first-person shooter experience, I actually think that the gameplay is pretty good. Forgoing complex movement like the recent Call of Duty games, XDefiant planned to cram themselves into Call of Duty's issues by focusing on their smaller base mechanics and heavily emphasizing their lack of skill-based matchmaking. So what's actually here? As of the final update, we have 9 game modes across 22 maps, including most of the staples like Team Deathmatch, Domination, and linear modes like Escort from Overwatch and Zone Control, which is similar to Rush from Battlefield. Our first issue arrives when we go to queue for a match. Choosing between unranked, ranked, and bots makes sense, but then there's the option to make a custom playlist by choosing between 9 different playlists. There's Arena Mosh Pit, Linear Mosh Pit, Bomb, Party, and Loom Hunt. But this is granular in ways that don't matter, while being too general in ways that do. Why would I want a custom playlist that allows me to combine playlists, instead of just picking the maps or at least modes that I want and just playing those? This would hurt player populations in the least populated modes. First of all, and second of all, that's already the case here with the party mode playlist. At least with that system, you can queue for the long shot you might not find a game in while still finding a match in a reasonable amount of time. And more importantly, you don't have to spend time playing modes that you don't want to be playing. Once you actually get in the game, what do you find? Well, the base shooting mechanics are simple, tight, and fun.
Hey yo, what the fuck?
For the most part, weapons look good and sound okay. Weirdly enough, there's massive issues with select weapons that make no sense to me. Things like the G36 reload having an invisible magazine and half the 1911's reload not having sound. Sort of clash with the fairly solid reload for the AK and the inspect animations that play when you start a game.
We know to be a great shooter, the gunplay has to be our top priority.
There's something off about the whole thing though. I don't know if it's something to do with the Ubisoft workflow, but a lot of their games lately, even on different engines, have huge issues with syncing audio to actions. Watch Dogs Legion's melee animations were completely butchered by mistimed hit stop and audio being off. And the same applies to the trailers for Assassin's Creed Shadows. At least the early ones, it looks a lot better now. It's hard to notice this issue at first, but you feel a dissonance when you watch it happen, and it takes all the impact out of the action. The clickety-clackety video game reloads of the last 6 years or so following 2019's Modern Warfare don't work if the sound effects don't match the motions. Back to modes though. Escort is easily the game's most well thought out game mode, mostly because it's entirely stolen from Overwatch. The variety of gadgets can be used to fortify along the point, clear ground to the point, set up defensive positions and ambushes, and dismantle said defenses. The Escort is split along 3 capture points along a linear route, meaning that the game has a nice tension and release as the clock runs down and resets as the objective is moved. This also means that if you're getting slammed, you won't reach a point where you're essentially out of time in the first or second third, but forced to play it out anyway. The rounds are the length they need to be to give either team time to win. Speaking of time, the game also keeps track of the progress the first team achieves, meaning that to win, you just have to beat what the previous team did. I think that's neat. Hot Shot is a fun, refreshing take on kill confirmed. Kills drop bounties that function as score for the team. After a few are collected, the player becomes their team's hot shot. Instead of being a weakened target like other games, their location is given to the enemy team, but they're given faster movement and ADS speed, and critically, if they collect tags, it's worth more. Meaning instead of hiding the VIP like a normal VIP mode, you want them on the front lines collecting tags, leveraging the risk of losing them. It's sort of like kill confirmed mixed with cranked from Call of Duty Ghosts. If that being my praise of their originality isn't concerning, it should be. This game is generic in every way you could possibly imagine. M4s with the classic airsoft red dot, shotguns with violent drop-off, light hero shooter mechanics that generally provide what a tactical or equipment would in other games, except it also comes with a massive aesthetic hit for good measure. Did I mention what the aesthetic for this game is, by the way?
It's fast-paced firefights meets punk rock mosh pit.
Your life literally is as valuable as a summer ant.
The joke I'm about to make is a bit played out, so I'm going to do it visually. So it's generic, but plenty of games are generic. Why didn't it make any money? 2 reasons. We'll start with the obvious. People didn't keep playing it. Allow me to introduce the concept of inertia. If Call of Duty had never existed and then suddenly, bam, Black Ops 6 dropped and said, look, we're like every other first-person shooter on the market. But look, you can max pain dive sideways. The game would not have the success that it has. These games are fun in a social context because it provides the same thing other social activities do.
Riot Shield! I'm a pussy that use Riot Shield!
It's just something to keep your hands and mind busy while you spend time with people or listen to a podcast or something. Obviously, there is mechanics and there is a skill gap, and there's things to learn. But this isn't Counter-Strike or Siege or even Halo. Sure, there's utility, but at the end of the day, it's trying to compete with COD, not Valorant, which means the appeal isn't in getting better, it's in having a good time in the moment. And while it sort of provides it, if it doesn't have the social capital to carry it through a few slow seasons, then when your friends aren't playing it, you won't be playing it. So you either need constant hype or you need something to help you stand out. The Call of Duty community has a very unique relationship with skill-based matchmaking. Put very simply, SBMM assigns players a hidden skill ranking and tries to match them up with players of similar skill to provide more balanced matches. This means that players of high skill don't completely destroy 10-year-olds who are playing on their older brother's Xbox. Some variation of this type of system has existed since Halo 2's use of True Skill, and there are conflicting reports of the older COD games using SBMM. Regardless, the Call of Duty community has been shaped in a way that is hostile to strong skill-based matchmaking, and I think I know why. In the days of Call of Duty 4, Call of Duty excelled in competition with other games for a few reasons. One of the primary reasons was accessibility, due to constant respawns and faster time to kill than something like Halo.
Now, to be honest, Halo takes more skill, but Call of Duty's fast pace means more kills.
Damaged that game, made a bunch of progress on it. Were we always down a player? That would make a lot more sense. We had two teammates that barely were able to crest 10 kills. That's the beauty of no skill-based matchmaking in a way, because in Call of Duty, I would have had to guaranteed carry other bad players. But even then, I'm not even trying to win. Like, I don't want to try to win, you know what I mean? I just want to farm kills.
And the culture of early COD YouTube was about maxing those numbers out. A triple kill isn't something to be proud of. It's what gets you a UAV so you can start getting something done. They have terms like quad feed for when you get 4 kills before anyone else in the feed does anything. And there was a heavy leaning into Dota's pub stomping. It's not about winning, it's about dropping 50 kills or getting a 25 kill streak nuke. A competitive, fair game does not provide you the opportunity to get 25 kills without dying. If you get a 25 kill streak in Counter-Strike, it means you won by yourself.
Yeah, that was such a weird time, Dick, on YouTube at the time. It was like, we were all making these Call of Duty videos, and you know, if you get 25 kills in a row, you get a nuke, you can call in, kind of end the game.
Oh yeah, I
waste
remember
everybody.
that.
And so it became this thing to get one really fast on YouTube. It was like, who can get the fastest one? And like somebody got like one in like 4 or 5 minutes, and it was like, oh my God.
But this video isn't about SBMM. My point is in the perception. The cultural hate for SBMM comes from people who make COD videos and who watch COD videos. Nobody in the CS scene is raging about skill-based matchmaking. Okay, I mean, I guess they did make their own matchmaking system, but that proves my point, okay? The Siege community hates the new ranking system because they think it inflates the rank of low-skill players, meaning they wish the skill-based matchmaking was more accurate, not less impactful.
Which pretty much means a working rank system. If you were a gold player and you decided to queue the game, you would get gold players, maybe plats on your team, but also play against other golds and plats. Nothing in between. Same with if you were diamond. The game would read you as a diamond player and put you with and against diamond players. I feel like this is a crazy thing to acknowledge now, considering this doesn't exist in rank 2.0. Skill-based matchmaking, you bitches. It was beautiful.
The average casual chess.com player is not thinking, damn it, this game keeps putting me against people who try as hard as me. So when XDefiant said, we don't have SBMM, they courted a specific audience, Call of Duty loyalists. But again, they don't just have to get the COD loyalists to show up. They did that on day one. They needed something to break them out of the inertia and to change course. No one is playing Call of Duty and XDefiant regularly. These games scratch the exact same itch, and XDefiant doesn't have anything besides its brand to hold on to its players. Speaking of itchy COD players, are you a gamer? Do you hate when you're busy gaming and suddenly, ooh, ow, my tummy hurts, ah! And oh, dear lord, if I go cook something, all my friends will leave and no one will be there to pog when I hit the gritty on Skibbity Nico Hatsune Miko. What is a gamer to do? Simply reach into the fridge and grab yourself a meal from today's sponsor, Factor. Factor is a meal delivery service owned by HelloFresh that does all that chopping, searing, and boiling for you, and delivers simple, nutritious meals straight to your door. Every meal is fresh and never frozen, and that makes a huge difference when you eat it. I've noticed in the protein especially, the quality and texture is leagues above anything else I've eaten out of a microwave. I just finished moving, and while I've been getting my stove fixed, these meals are unironically the meals I've felt the best about eating, especially compared to the freezer aisle and takeout I've had to sustain myself with before my box arrived. I purchased my own box before agreeing to the sponsor, and genuinely, these are better than what you stick in your microwave from the grocery store. And if you're anything like me and you're terrible at planning, you can switch up your order every week from 4 to 18 meals per week, or pause or reschedule your deliveries at any time. Head to factor75.com or click the link below and use code 50ButterAnvil to get 50% off plus free shipping on your first Factor box. That's code 50ButterAnvil at factor75.com to get 50% off plus free shipping on your first box. So yeah, Factor, that's a brand. Speaking of brands, how did Ubisoft use their brands in XDefiant? Let's start with one of the most iconic Tom Clancy factions. The Season 1 update added GS Commando to the game as a faction. If you know anything about Rainbow Six in general, or especially Siege, you may be thinking, huh? The premise of Rainbow Six as a franchise is that elite soldiers from different NATO organizations, primarily Delta Force and the SAS, come together to create an elite international counterterrorism unit. One of the factions pulled from in the original novel is GSG-9, a counter-terrorist police unit from Germany. So instead of using Rainbow as the faction in-game, they added the GSG-9, a unit that simply provides a few members of Rainbow. I don't know how to get this across, but this is a fundamental fuck-up. The point of Rainbow as a franchise is the combination of different units. It's literally in the name. It's called Rainbow.
Very much on the nose. Did not like that.
This isn't Rainbow, motherfucker. This is Yellow. Just to be clear, GS Commando isn't a real thing. This is a parody organization made specifically for this game. The GSG-9 are not a Ubisoft property or an established faction. This is a clear lack of understanding of the brands at work here, which probably helps explain the next problem. The characters in this game are its biggest fumble. There's two obvious directions to take a game like this. One, you can have a setting that's cool and interesting. You can respect your world and take it seriously. This is old school Call of Duty, Battlefield, or something like Hunt Showdown. For this to work, you need an aesthetic. You need a vibe. It's less about the story and more about the experience. When you close your eyes and listen to the gameplay, you can hear the echoing gunfire in the distance, the footsteps slamming against the ground as you move, the breathing of the characters running. If I play clips from these games without the visuals, you know what game this is. Alternatively, if you're going to go for the soulless corpomic product designed to use bright colors and dark patterns to psychologically abuse children into milking their parents' credit cards on skins.
Zoe, where did you get all this stuff? I ordered it online.
Dances and particle effects, you need something else. You need appealing characters. You need something for people to attach to, or at least find visually appealing enough to want to play as or with. Ask any random gamer who this is, and even if they've never touched Overwatch, they know this is Tracer, because she's a character. They might know her for other reasons, but that's not important. Speaking of hero shooter character models being used for nefarious purposes, let's talk about Marvel rivals. Brand aside for the moment, the character designs here look nice, and for the most part, they're extremely indicative of what the characters do. This art style allows for the Hulk and the Punisher to be close to the same size, and just by looking at them for a moment, it's clear that the Punisher is going to shoot you while being more of a tank than a glass cannon, and that the Hulk is going to run at you and punch you and have a lot of health. Then you throw in the built-in brand. People already know these characters, and convincing someone to buy a skin for Spider-Man is like convincing them to breathe fucking air. In addition to this, the wealth of comics, TV shows, and films allows for easy aping of designs from source material. And it basically just happens to you for free. Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness is a piece of shit film. But this animation gets all the appeal of the Sam Raimi filmmaking that made it without any of the MCU baggage or bad writing. It's not stealing when you own it. So then we go back to XDefiant, and when you see the faction tab, you'd think we're in the same situation. Ghost Recon, Scott Mitchell. Nope. Assassin's Creed. Ezio, Desmond, Eivor? Nope. Watch Dogs, Aiden, Marcus, Wrench, Sitara, fucking Dalton, Splinter Cell? This is a Ubisoft game that doesn't even have the gall to sell me Sam Fisher again. Who the fuck? Rafa? This game is cobbled together from like 8 franchises, and you didn't just add the characters from those games? You've done it before. Ezio was in Soul Calibur. Sam Fisher has been glued to every fucking franchise they can get him in. And now you can't get around to it when capitalizing on characters is literally the business model? Just for the fuck of it, I'm gonna recast this entire game just to show how fucking easy it would be. Cleaners, Joe Farrow, Vivian Connolly, Martinez. The Phantoms can stay that way, they were generic to begin with. Libertad, Lara Garcia, Julio Velez, Big Poppy, he'll sell skins just because his name is stupid. Echelon, Archer, Kestrel, Sam Fisher, next. DeadSec, since they insist on Watch Dogs 2, we'll go Marcus, Wrench, Sitara. Let's say they don't. Aiden Pierce skins? You can't sell Aiden Pierce skins? GS Commando? If we pretend that says Rainbow Six instead of ripping off GSGI and pretending it even pertains to Rainbow Six at that point, there's 2 angles to go with. You either go Ding Chavez, Logan Keller, Ash to respect the whole series' history, or you can cuck out and pick 3 C jobs at random. Call it Sledge Ash Osa so you get a tax credit or some shit. Highwaymen. Honestly, fuck putting in this faction, but it's honestly the closest they could excuse to that stupid punk rock thing, so fuck it. Mickey, Lou, the Judge. I know he's not one of them, but he's cool, okay? More skins, am I right? Same as the Siege thing. I'd say go Altair, Ezio, Desmond, since there's clearly no lore restrictions. But if you have to make it modern, go Layla, Desmond, Darcy. Or maybe Sean, since Rebecca's the announcer. Wolves. Again, this one being generic makes a lot more sense and shouldn't be too much of a problem. But if not, go Josiah. If you want to protect against spoilers, call him Red Queen and mask him up. Then Sphinx or some shit, and obviously Walker's the third guy you need to unlock.
Let me tell you something.
Omega Force. This one's kinda crazy. They used the bad guys from Blood Dragon, whose entire deal is that there's generic-ass bad guys, and then they made a parody of their own protagonist. And it's the only faction with just one character. Just use the character! Honestly, should have put Eden's Gate in here if you're going to use 3 different Far Cry factions, but whatever. Just to hammer it home. Scarlet Witch, Sebastian. The Hulk, Nova. Captain America, Captain. Wait, they named one fucking Captain? For some reason, though, when it comes to the maps and faction announcers, there's suddenly respect for the games referenced. There isn't much for the actual franchises, since most of the games represented here are trash to begin with, but they sort of respect the trash and represent it pretty well. A few of the faction announcers here have their real voice actors from their franchises.
First hostile hotshot on the scope.
And the gadgets are mostly based on the factions they come from in occasionally cool and occasionally cringe ways. The assassins added in the final season actually get hidden blades that one-shot kill melee. And while Sam Fisher's 5.7 being an ultimate is very fan servicey, that doesn't mean this fan didn't feel a little serviced by the whole thing. Also, just referencing Ghost Recon Phantoms? I didn't even know this game existed, ironically, because it's another game Ubisoft killed. They could have just used Future Soldiers since more people know it, or Wildlands or Breakpoint since they want to sell more copies. But someone in Ubisoft decided, remember Phantoms? That was cool. Let's do that. If you've seen my Guerrilla Warfare video, you know I hate Far Cry 6, but they even got It's Fun Man to say Guerrilla some more for this game. And the maps from different franchises are instantly recognizable. Noodle will instantly be familiar to any Watch Dogs 2 player. The Havana section of Far Cry 6 is one of its most iconic locations, faithfully represented. They even included the red cancer juice being an environmental hazard. That's a really cool detail. It requires knowing something about the game it came from. And the reimagining of Clubhouse from Siege is so accurate that I could navigate it effortlessly on my first playthrough. This is the kind of thing a crossover game should be doing. This is the part where I jokingly ask if the map department and the character department ever spoke to each other. Then you realize when they made this game and realize not only did they never talk to each other, they may have never walked past each other. Putting my deep emotional scarring aside, the game plays pretty well. The hit reg was a little rough on launch and is a little improved but still not great, but the fundamentals in general are solid. The guns look good, the guns shoot good. There's decent-ish variety, and there's variety in the maps and modes, but there's just something off when you play it. Call of Duty games and its many clones usually serve one major purpose: delivering simple gameplay that gives you happy brain juices. The gameplay here technically has more depth, but it just somehow feels hollow? It's got all the flashy stuff I would expect to make the junk food FPS sensations activate, but it just doesn't quite scratch that itch, at least for me. This game seems like a super cynical product abusing my nostalgia to try to milk me for skin money, but I can see the passion underneath. Even if it didn't quite hit for me. Or enough to save it from Ubisoft _ Jacques fucking C8. I don't know, man. Something poutine. Regardless, the clear passion that went into things like the remixed musical themes. And the simple novelty of mixing a bunch of coolish properties together is a hell of an infant to suck down the drain. Which happens this June, 13 months after its initial release. Playing XDefiant for this video feels like walking around a poorly funded children's museum while the Demolition Crew and Wrecking Ball hang out outside on their lunch break. While there definitely were a lot of terrible design choices made in the game, there's also stuff in here that I really like and don't want to see get deleted. It really sucks that companies get to send developers into unwinnable situations and then fire or relocate them while they set years of their life on fire. And it's unfair to players to give them an experience they might love, allow for them to pay to keep it funded, and then take away their purchases when you need to trim some fat for your valuation and prep for a Tencent buyout. That's not a joke, by the way. Rumors of the Ubi brothers teaming up with Tencent to buy out Ubi stock have been around for a few months now, coinciding with big and continued drops in their stock price. Regardless, the fat trimming hypothesis is more than just a thought I had. When you consider first the timing of the shutdown announcement coinciding with the biggest content update for the game, and much more damningly when you hear this letter from the CEO. Play the letter, Kronk!
Today more than ever, I need your full energy and commitment to ensure we get back on the path to success. I am also asking that each of you be especially careful and strategic with your spending and initiative to ensure we being as efficient and lean as possible.
Yeah, I'm just gonna take the dub on that one. Another game shut down by Ubisoft recently was The Crew. If you want things like this to stop happening, consider checking out the consumer initiative Stop Killing Games. I'll have it linked in the description. They're not looking for money, they just need support. And if you're in the European Union, it's especially important you sign it and share it around. Despite the misinformed ramblings of certain parties, This initiative is the closest consumers have come to owning their games since GOG. Video on that someday. I'd like to take a moment to thank my patrons and channel members. Special thanks to Cookie, Days Canadian, and Sea Trouble. Channel members get early access to videos, the ability to view and comment on my scripts, and patrons get the early videos without ads. Whether you pay me or not, thank you for watching. And as always, subscribe to my fucking YouTube channel.